Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing 2 ways that we can do reverse stenciling using a stencil from A Colourful Life Designs. I've got this beautiful wildflower stencil and I really love this stencil design, but obviously if I stencil through the stencil, that design is going to stay white on the card panel and I'm going to have a lovely background, whatever I've created, or it will reflect whatever colour cardstock I've used through the pattern. But sometimes you actually want to use the pattern of the stencil. So I've got 2 ways that I'm going to share with you today. So I've got 2 card panels already cut to size. These are 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And on the first panel, I'm going to start doing some ink blending. I've got some ink cubes from Gina Designs. I'm going to start with grass green. I've got key lime, wild lilac and lovely lavender. And I'm just going to get some colour down on my card panel. I'm using greens and purples because I really want to reflect the design of the stencil. But of course you can use whatever colours you like, and of course you can be doing this technique with any stencil that you've got in your stash. So I'm just using the stencil there as a guide just to help me see where the flowers are and where the grass is, just so that I can kind of get the greens and the purples in the right places. I'm not being precious about the ink blending either because a lot of this is going to be covered up. So don't worry about it being blotchy or patchy. I am struggling a little bit with these brushes, and later in the video I do change the brushes that I'm using. I think I may have contaminated them with another brand of ink. Anyway, now I'm going to add the stencil over that card panel. I'm going to use my magnets to hold it in place, and I'm going to come in with some Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Memento is a dye-based ink as well, and I've chosen to use a dye ink because it dries quicker. So if you use pigment ink, it will take a lot longer to dry. Now, I was using a really small detail brush, and obviously it's going to take a long time with this stencil, so I've switched it out for a bigger blending brush, and you can see I'm getting much better coverage now. And then when we lift that stencil up, we can see the beautiful design of the stencil set against that dark black background. And this is a bit similar to the Joseph's coat technique. So yeah, really stunning. Now for the second card, I'm going to show you how you can get that reverse stencil pattern but still keep that white space. So obviously I know that not everyone's going to want to create a dark card. You're not maybe going to want a black background all the time, or a darker navy or purple. So how can we keep the white space? Well, a technique that I've thought about is using our embossing ink and our embossing powders. So I'm using my Wow Embossing Ink Pad here. I've done some direct pad to paper, but I'm going to come in with a blending brush just to make sure that I get all of that finer detail, because it is quite a heavily detailed stencil. And you will have noticed that my embossing pad is slightly tinted pink. I did contaminate it earlier on some ink, but not a problem. You will see a hint of pink in the clear gloss, but it really doesn't matter. It actually complements the card really nicely. But obviously if you had a nice clean embossing pad, then you wouldn't have any kind of hint of ink in the background. So I've added some clear embossing powder using this large Wow jar of embossing powder that I've got, and then I'm going to heat set it from underneath. And what this is going to do is kind of create a resist. So when we do some ink blending, the embossing powder is going to resist the ink, and then that way we'll just get colour in the stencil design. So this is just a really fun way of getting that reverse stencil design but still keeping that white background. And I actually really love the shine that the embossing powder gives. But if you did want to remove the shine, then what you could do when you've finished is just take an iron, add a couple of pieces of copy paper over the top and just iron over the card panel. And then what that will do is it will lift the embossing powder onto the scrap paper that you've ironed over the top of the card panel. So that's just a little technique if you wanted to remove the shine, but I think it really enhances the finished card, and I think you'll see that in the finished photos. So what I'm doing is, before I add the purple, I've just used some tissue just to wipe off the excess ink from the embossing powder, because obviously the embossing powder, the ink's not going to absorb into it, so it's going to stay on the surface and then you risk muddying up your colours. So just something to be mindful of. Make sure between changes of colours you just wipe off the excess ink. Once I've finished, I'm just going to take a bit more of that tissue, moisten it slightly just to wipe off the excess ink. And then that's our second panel created. So let's turn them into cards. And what I'm going to do is, for both of them, I'm going to trim them down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And I'm just trimming off the areas that I dislike the most. So I took a good look at it and just thought, where's the ink blending perhaps not the best? And then just trim off those areas. And you can trim from both sides as well, as you can see that I'm doing here. I'm just making sure that I get the measurements sentiments down to the right size. I'm then going to create a matte layer, and this is going to be 4 inches by 5¼ inches. So I'm just trimming 2 of those down, one from purple and one from black. And I'm going to then add some liquid glue to the back of these panels and get them glued down. There is a little bit of warping on the panel that I've heat embossed, but that's not a problem. While the glue grabs, I'm just going to leave my magnets on it to one side, and then when that's dried, it'll be nice and flat. And then for the second panel, again, I'm just going to add some liquid glue to the back of it and stick that down. So that one's going to have a nice bold black border. And then I'm going to mount these 2 card blanks that I've created. These are 4¼ by 5½ inch card blanks, and I'm going to use this sentiment stamp set from Kristina Werner from Concord and 9th. It's called Check It In stamps, and I absolutely love these sentiments. I have got the coordinating die set as well, and you can see I've created quite a lot of sentiments in the back of the packet ready to go. So yeah, there's a great variety of sentiments, and it's not often that I find a sentiment stamp set where I'm going to use all of the sentiments that are in it. I'm sure that a lot of you can relate to that. It's not always easy to find a really good sentiment stamp set. Sometimes you might like 1 or 2 of the sentiments and maybe never really use the rest, but I can see myself reaching for all of these. So yeah, I think it was a worthwhile purchase. So I've die cut the sentiment with the coordinating dies, and I'm just going to pop that on some foam tape there. And then I'm going to add some card bling from A Colour for Life Designs. I don't know why I got the matte black out, because then I was like, you're not even going to see it on the background. And so I ended up using these iridescent purple sequins. These are the opaque iridescent light purple sequins, and they're just gorgeous. So I've popped those down, and then I'm just going to finish off the second card. Again, I'm just going to glue that down to the card base, add a sentiment from the same stamp set, and add a few of those. This time I will use the matte black sequins, and then that will be the 2 cards finished for today. So I just want to mention as well that A Colour for Life Designs have got a sale on, and it's 50% off all the stencils. So if you've been looking at a lot of their designs recently and been creating a bit of a wish list but have been waiting to purchase, it's definitely a good time to buy right now, because they are 50% off. All of the details will be in the description box below. I will leave a link to the coupon code as well, and yeah, don't forget to check that out. As always, I'll leave all the products that I've used linked in the description box below. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed this video today, and if you're not subscribed to my channel, then please consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know which card is your favourite from today's video, and as always, I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.